Hello everyone, this is part 30 of What If Naruto was in the 7 Ninja Swordsman, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Mew and every cage inside the room had gone deathly pale upon hearing the fourth Mizukage's words. Before they could even react, a regretful look arrived on Naruto's face as he glanced at Mei, Mito, Yagura, Fukai, Yugito and every last Jinchuriki, even as Onoki finally got out of his stupor to order the Iwa Anbu squads to arrest the rogue Mizukage. Yagura had a knowing bittersweet smile upon his face, unlike the other confused and shocked Jinchurikis. He merely offered a solemn nod even as the fourth Mizukage said something to them all. "I'm truly sorry, but I must do what's necessary." His gaze then landed upon the advancing Iwa Anbu squads and the cages surrounding him. "Until I've destroyed every last one of these cowards." Hiruzen blanched when horrified screams were unleashed by all 9 Jinchuriki from different nations as strange markings spread across their bi. Tobirama however knew exactly what was happening, as did Inoue Namikaze, who grabbed Commander Reika and Kushina swiftly before literally bursting out of the castle's walls. The other cages didn't have that option, as some of them tried to restrain the Jinchurikis but were blasted back when every one of them unleashed Biju chakra from their body and started developing tails of that same twisted energy from their backs. Mew and Onoki's eyes widened in horror when Naruto raised his left hand holding the ram sign, making the transformed Jinchurikis roar in fury before jumping at the Iwa Anbu squads to tear them apart limb from limb. The Tsuchikage swiftly jumped back to get some distance from the madman before him, making Onoki follow his lead. So that's why he was shaking hands before the meetings start with all cages and their escorts. In reality, he was marking their Jinchuriki who were his real target, while he had already marked the 4 Jinchuriki under his command. He was prepared for any form of betrayal of us, thought Mew bitterly. He couldn't help but curse when Naruto clenched his fist, making all Jinchurikis unleash a brutal shockwave that destroyed the upper half of the entire castle in an instant, sending the cages, their supporters and many of the castle's inhabitants flying in various directions like rag dolls. Onoki and Mew however regained their balance quite easily and started flying in the air, a unique power which none of their fellow cages or their escorts now lying painfully over the ruins of the destroyed castle could boast about. Mew clenched his fist when he saw all 9 fully transformed Jinchuriki standing beside the 4th Mizukage defiantly. Only now, when the man had entered battle and started using his chakra truly, Mew could sense even more disturbing hidden truth. His entire arm and body are made up of Hashirama Senju's cells. That is allowing him to control the Jinchurikis, thought Mew in shock. Even if they were enemies, such a power would be desired by any cage. A ruthless smile arrived on Naruto's face once again as he looked at the Tsuchikage. "Since we are being so hell-bent on being honest, then I'll let you in on another secret which your dear Hiruzen kept from you. It's true that I am a descendant of the Namikaze clan through my mother, but I also am an heir to another clan that's far more feared. Isn't that right, father?" asked Naruto without a flinch as he looked at a stunned Tobirama. "You're Tobirama Senju's son, nephew to Hashirama Senju himself. Don't be ridiculous," refuted Onoki instantly. However, the rest of the cages alongside the short man were shocked once again when Tobirama defeatedly lowered his head and just gave a solemn nod. For the first time, Mew wondered if he had stumbled into something far more dangerous. Naruto Namikaze had already been a force to be feared as a fighter and commander of armies, but to realize he was the direct descendant of one of the 2 legendary Senju brothers himself. This was disastrous. Unfortunately for the Mizukage, his fellow cages were now getting back on their feet even as thousands of Iwagakure shinobi started charging towards them from the village center down the hill. Tobirama was livid upon seeing as to what was happening right before his eyes, as those closest to him had betrayed him today. Hiruzen had ruined everything, and what Naruto had done to not only his own wife, followers, other Jinchuriki, but also to Mito, a woman who had welcomed him into their clan and been so kind to him. As thousands of enemy shinobi charged from Iwagakure towards their hill to defend the cages and bring an end to the rogue Mizukage, the man who was Tobirama's son but one he could not relate to anymore merely gave a merciless glare as a strange shadow descended upon the entire land. Every person looked upwards in the sky to see Madara Uchiha himself looking down at them with his cold and merciless Rinnegan eyes. To the enemies of mankind. This is a declaration of war. A large meteor suddenly crashed right into the center of Iwagakure, destroying entire districts instantly and erasing thousands of lives in an instant, shinobi and civilian alike. The remaining Iwa shinobi survivors who had not even recovered from the shock and devastation froze in their positions when a dozen more monstrous such meteorites were also crashing down from the cloudy skies and were heading straight towards them all. Mew's worst nightmare had suddenly came to life as he saw the legendary Madara Uchiha floating in the sky above him and staring down at them all with extreme disappointment and contempt, even as the vicious warlord had unleashed an attack that would destroy Iwagakure's very existence completely from this world. Onoki, with me now. For once his student understood the apocalypse their village faced and joined with Mew as the two flying warriors concentrated their power on one target exclusively. Particle style, atomic dismantling jutsu. Madara found himself to be actually impressed when the two Iwa shinobi unleashed a blinding wave of their infamous dust release straight at him. The former Uchiha leader extended his right hand even as he stood rooted in his spot. As he was about to launch his counter, he was even further surprised when the dust release attack split at the last minute into a dozen different missiles-like structures that soared towards each of the crashing meteorites to strike clean through their middle before again expanding into a conical form to engulf their remains completely for destruction at an atomic level that cleared the doomed skies of Iwagakure. "You dance well," said Madara with an excited grin, as he looked at the Tsuchikage and his heavily panting student. The remaining Iwagakure shinobi roared in admirable defiance upon their cage's counterattack and resumed their charge towards the other wounded cages up the hill and the bastard fourth Mizukage who had that same merciless look upon his face. In less than a few seconds, the vanguard of the Iwagakure force was blown to pieces courtesy of hidden explosives even as hundreds upon hundreds of white zetsus emerged all around them. From the sewers, from the houses, from the very ground, they were coming from every nook and corner, which took the Iwa shinobi by complete surprise as the strange creatures roared at them without any mercy. Hundreds of Iwa shinobi found themselves tackled to the ground as every one of them was jumped upon by nearly 3 zetsus as more and more continued emerging across the entire village in a never-ending tsunami. Mew, Onoki, Tobirama, Hiruzen and every other cage watched in absolute horror as the zetsus didn't kill the downed enemies. The monstrous creatures started eating the humans alive. The grotesque sight made every cage roar in absolute fury as they alongside their surviving men charged towards the man responsible for it all. Naruto unleashed Muramasa defiantly as the transformed Jinchuriki all around him roared in fury at the approaching all-cage squad. His eyes however were fixated on Tobirama, who looked livid at his son for what had been done to Mito and the others. The former Hokage was the first to leap straight towards the Mizukage with his infamous sword Raijin no Ken in his hand. The blade clashed against another and Tobirama's eyes widened when he found his former lover, Inoue, to be the defender. She kicked him back brutally and stood as an iron wall between him and Naruto. "You will not touch my son," she yelled fiercely, even as Commander Reika and Kushina joined the fray to attack the remaining men of the cages rushing towards Naruto. "Do you understand what you are doing, Inoue?" asked Tobirama in horror, as he looked at the carnage happening all around them. "This is Izu's chance to renounce this man. Are you islanders willing to make the entire world your enemy just for him?" asked Hiruzen in disbelief. "Your betrayal itself is a proof that sooner or later you will destroy our nation for your own interests. It has always been the same and was the reason why I never came to you, Tobirama, despite giving birth to our son. Most importantly, Naruto has been more loyal to our nation than any of you ever have. The Uzumaki clan has finally understood that now, with the truth of the past being fully revealed to them by us," said Inoue fiercely. "We abandoned him once, but not again. He's one of us and we will stand with him, even if it means fighting all of you," promised Commander Reika without hesitation. "We will not wait for our deaths upon our island at the hands of S like you, Hokage," yelled Kushina angrily, as she plunged her sword clean through one of the Takikage's guards. Unable to get through to the women of Izu, the former Hokage looked at the only man who could probably end this madness. "I know what has happened here today is wrong. But is this the only way? Is this the freedom and justice that you desired? To be able to hurt Mito, your own wife and all the innocents right now? It makes you the same as the rest of these cages?" asked Tobirama desperately to his own son, as he pointed at the transformed Jinchurikis and the carnage happening downhill. The Senju leader was further alarmed when all 9 Jinchurikis simply teleported away before his very eyes, courtesy of Naruto making a hand sign. The former Hokage looked at the crumbling village of Iwa and realized the Zetsu forces had destroyed the anti-teleportation seals placed by the Tsuchikage and Onoki. He looked at Madara flying high in the sky, who was the reason for this destruction. Son, don't let yourself be controlled or manipulated by S like Madara. You're better than this, pleaded Tobirama sincerely. This time Naruto did look straight into his eyes, and the sheer ruthlessness in that gaze troubled the former Hokage deeply. I tried, father. I truly wanted things to not end up this way, but now that they have, there can be no turning back. From here on out all that happens shall be of my own free will, answered Naruto honestly. Work with me and we can try to find a solution together, requested Tobirama sincerely. A flicker of hope remained in the former Hokage's heart when he saw those words piercing through his son's heart and made him lower his gaze. You play the bad guy next. Tobirama got his answer when Naruto disappeared instantly, and if not for the Senju leader's sensory powers, he would have not realized just where exactly the Mizukage had gone. Saru. Hiruzen had coughed violently by the time he had heard the frantic scream of his mentor, courtesy of Muramasa now clean through his heart from behind. Looking back, he saw the 4th Mizukage holding that cursed weapon as it started consuming Hiruzen from the inside. Damn you for forcing me into this position, whispered Naruto bitterly. How? Asked the mortally wounded Hokage. A Hirashin marking never disappears, and I had given you one the very first time we met, when you told me about Ino's death, answered Naruto. Hiruzen remembered how violently Naruto had reacted to the deception and had grabbed him by his tea then. That explained. Knowing that your short-sightedness shall lead to more unnecessary deaths. Cursed Naruto viciously. Inoue had again blocked Tobirama, making the helpless former Hokage just watch as his prized student was in half as Naruto's gaze then moved towards the remaining cages that paled in horror. He was upon the Takikage Yosuke Meiji see through his last remaining bodyguard with ease and beheading the man mercilessly. Let's dance together, said Madara with a grin. Mew had the horror of watching the very destruction of his village, shinobi, and now the deaths of 2 allied cages right before his eyes, even as the surviving cages tried to flee from the wrath of the Mizukage and his supporters. He suddenly felt a powerful force pulling him upwards in the sky and straight towards Madara himself. In desperation, he fired dust release attacks at the Uchiha only to have the man simply absorb them as if they were nothing. The Tsuchikage still didn't give up and launched every weapon at his disposal, be they kunai or shuriken or explosives, only to have every one of them repulsed by Madara and thrown back at a Wagakure shinobi, leading to more deaths of Mew's men. Shinra Tensei. Mew was by an invisible gravitational force that sent him crashing hundreds of feet below on the ground, breaking dozens of bones in his body painfully. If that wasn't enough, he again found himself lifted in the air only to be back to the ground and bear the same agony repeatedly by Madara. Watching their Tsuchikage be treated like a punching bag broke the resolve of his remaining countrymen, desperately trying to survive from getting eaten alive by the Zetsu monsters. Onoki screamed in absolute rage and flew towards the Uchiha currently butchering Mew, only to get tossed aside like a fly by that same mysterious power of Madara that went on to tee the second Tsuchikage over and over again. Tobirama. The bee-curling scream echoed by Mew finally shocked Tobirama out of his disbelief as he looked at the cage, even as Inoue continued to push him back but strangely didn't launch any mortal attacks. Get out of here. Save as many as you can, begged Mew painfully. Tobirama had little love for a Wagakure, but even he could see its doomed fate in the face of such overwhelming power. These monsters were definitely Madara's henchmen, but this unforeseen counterattack that crippled them all instantly could have only been made by one man. He looked at his son. No, he was too far gone to be considered as such. Now he was a ruthless enemy that had M2 cages and devised a dastardly attack like this. Being the only one who actually knew what endgame Naruto and Madara had planned made it imperative for him to counter them. This battle was already lost, even the second Tsuchikage could see that. But the war and the future of the great as well as smaller nations, the entire shinobi world rested upon its remaining military leadership actually surviving this catastrophe. With Hiruzen gone, Mito captured alongside every other Jinchuriki, and Naruto rushing to the remaining cages, it left Tobirama with a quick decision to make. Inoue blinked in surprise when the earlier hesitation and regret disappeared from Tobirama's eyes to be replaced by the ice-cold gaze of the warrior she knew. He punched her gut and used her momentary gasp to teleport away from her to appear right above Naruto's head. The Mizukage, being a censor himself, dodged the S from the holy sword only to grimace when he saw Tobirama throwing ninja wire from his pouch to wrap around the fleeing cages before making them teleport away to whatever safety he could offer from this doomed village. He then rushed in to actually rescue Mew even as Naruto and Inoue alongside their supporters chased after him. It was ultimately the Tsuchikage who shook his head even as he was pulled upwards by Madara towards himself in the skies. Save the third Tsuchikage. Tobirama looked at the unconscious form of Onoki in a nearby alley upon Mew's direction and instinctively rushed to his side. The second Tsuchikage's wish was fulfilled as his student was picked up by the former Hokage before both men were teleported away to safety, much to the frustration of Naruto, who clenched his fist bitterly. Mew defiantly looked into Madara's frustrated gaze as the Uchiha held him brutally by his tea even as the village of Awagakure alongside its residents and defenders made the doomed final stand. You may kill us all today, but the soul of this nation can never be broken, said Mew bravely, earning a cold and unimpressed glare from Madara. Then I'll take your soul instead, Tsuchikage. Mew's eyes widened in horror, but he didn't feel anything a moment later and slumped lifelessly in Madara's grasp, but his people did see their cage's soul being sucked right out of his body and simply consumed by the godly Uchiha. That was the final straw for many as they simply threw down their weapons to surrender as Madara landed upon the ground to stand beside Naruto. You failed in all the cages and their henchmen, commented Madara flatly. Still did better than you, answered Naruto coldly, making Madara chuckle a bit. Hiruzen was just a brat and nobody even knew who the F was the other idiot who claimed himself as Takikage. I actually grown a man like Mew, retorted Madara. He could see Naruto was not in a good mood when he simply walked away, but his merciless last words made Madara understand the fourth Mizukage was fully committed to the cause. Put these people out of their misery. We don't have the resources or time to take prisoners, nor will it convey the message. Inoue was confused by her son's words and looked at the Uchiha hesitantly. Isn't the cages the message? She asked, as Madara started flying back in the air and gave a signal which made the Zetsus attacking the Awagakure defenders simply run back into the ground in all haste. That's not the message. This is. From atop the hill where the ruined castle stood, Inoue sensed Madara gather a huge amount of chakra even as Commander Reika Uzumaki and Kushina quickly arrived by her side. Right before the second Azukage's eyes, the village of Awagakure was destroyed in an instant alongside every living soul within it, courtesy of a massive shockwave that left nothing but a giant crater where once stood one of the most powerful military strongholds of the world. Kirigakure. Next day, General Abe stood alone at the top of the Mizukage's tower to glance at the vast village around him in all its glory. Thinking about its history to where it was now made the veteran officer truly understand the enormity of what this nation had undergone ever since it came into existence. The first Mizukage Byakuran had been nearly the same age as Abe when he took office in the final days of the Clan Wars era. Unlike the ninja clans like the Kaguya, Hozuki or Hagoromo, who was still busy fighting amongst themselves, Byakuran hailed from a respected but not well-known ninja family. His power was admirable, but it was his act of pledging loyalty to the water daimyo that made him the first Mizukage. With the might of the feudal armies at his back and a predictable strategy of brute force or bribery, he managed to unite the ninja clans, the Hozuki clan becoming his strongest ally, making him choose its clan head Genjutsu Hozuki as his successor. When the first Great Ninja War broke out, he eagerly ordered their shinobi and feudal warriors to participate in order to gain glory, territory and resources for their nation, only to achieve catastrophic defeats with huge loss of men, resources and the near destruction of their nation's economy. The second Mizukage Genjutsu Hozuki inherited an extremely fragile Kirigakure from his predecessor. The ninja clans had lost much confidence in the position of Mizukage due to Byakuran's defeat. In order to keep the village united, Genjutsu gave them more privileges than they deserved. He tried his best to hold their military together even if it meant continuing barbaric and senseless customs like the bee ceremony while choosing the 7 ninja swordsmen and s practiced by some of the ninja clans. He was not favored by the water daimyos who had been disappointed with the performance of a costly hidden shinobi village which had so far not delivered much returns. To prove them wrong, Genjutsu Hozuki launched a bizarre campaign against Iwagakure that again led to a monumental defeat and even the deaths of many of the 7 ninja swordsmen. To his credit, the man learned from his mistakes and started taking sound advice from his supporters, including one of the man who would succeed him in the future. During the last days of his reign, he ordered key military reforms, resisted the domination of ninja clans and even gained the courage to oppose some of the barbaric practices of their own daimyo towards his fellow citizens of the Land of Water. It gained him a brutal death after severe T&AB civil war but sealed his legacy as a brave man in the eyes of the people. The third Mizukage Yagura Karatachi had achieved power through mutiny in order to protect the privileges and rule of the ninja clans whom he was a part of. He had sided with the daimyos who wanted to protect their own dominance against Genjutsu's rising assertiveness and influence due to Kirigakure's victories in the Second Great Ninja War. His rule, however brief, was one of terror and brutality where he tried to solidify his dominance through brute force against his own people, considering he had dethroned and played a part in his predecessors. Unlike the earlier Mizukages who had actually tried to do something for the good of their nation, Yagura would be regarded as a selfish and wretched man that nearly destroyed his own country. Ultimately he was defeated, the dominance of the more brutal ninja clans was shattered completely as they were all made special examples of by the new leader of their nation. The fourth Mizukage, Naruto Namikaze, was very different from his predecessors. He was a man who hated the barbaric traditions and dominance of the ninja clans and water daimyo, which he believed was a hindrance to the progress of this nation, a thought shared by his mentor Genjutsu Hozuki. He was even repulsed by the disorganization among Kirigakure's military and the dismal state of their economy and infighting. He destroyed the daimyo's rulership and the man alongside his entire family, thereby ending his line forever. He made an example of the Karatachi clan by them all in order to teach the other revolting ninja clans a lesson and made his predecessor Yagura a pawn in all sense. He also had the bee of innocent civilians on his hand during Kirigakure's ongoing participation in the Second Great Ninja War's early days. Yet for his all brutality, the man achieved far more than any Mizukage ever had. He abolished practiced by the ninja clans of Kirigakure, reduced the exorbitant taxes on the common citizens by the water daimyo and gave them basic human rights that the previous rulers had denied them. Right to education, right to healthcare, right to justice, right against discrimination, right to live a decent life. In honesty, the credit for these historic reforms should be given to the man's wife Mai Terumi, who had played a pivotal role in bringing these changes through the shadows. She reformed the economy and improved the living standards of citizens, something which the people still remembered and thanked her for. Her husband, on the other hand, reformed the military completely. Naruto Namikaze's campaign of conquest was something nearly everyone, be they shinobi or civilian or even samurai, knew about today across the entire world, the most notable being his victory over the Land of Lightning. He was the only Kage in modern history to have never lost a single military battle and the most powerful shinobi of their nation, whose presence alone on the battlefield was worth thousands of shinobi and a sight that made the most determined enemy tremble. He was the first figure in this nation's and maybe even the modern ninja world's history to combine total political power with frontline military genius. How was General Abe supposed to turn against a man like that? To think that the greatest hero of his nation was also the greatest traitor in truth made him clench his fist bitterly. Have you decided on what's to be done, General? Abe turned around to see the Anbu commander walking towards him, even as his voice sounded extremely somber. How are Lord Mai Terumi and Lord Yuki taking this revelation? Asked Abe seriously. Outright denial and conspiracy being committed by our enemies against our Mizukage. I don't blame them, considering for Lord Terumi not only the man is his son-in-law but also the one who made their clan so prominent. Same goes for Lord Yuki as well to an extent. They will not side against him so easily, answered the Anbu commander. And what about you, Commander? Asked the general honestly, making the man clench his fist. Naruto was a Kirigakure Anbu first before he became one of the 7 ninja swordsmen and Arcade later. He served under my command and is the most gifted commander I have ever seen. The Black Ops see him as one of their own, they will not abandon him easily even if it's me telling the bitter truth, said the Anbu leader without hesitation. Apart from wondering about the authenticity of Yagura's source, I also question the timing of this revelation. Azu and Konoha will simply deny and blame us for believing in absurd lies if we confront them on this. We risk escalating conflict with them when we are already at war with a rogue power like a Wagakur, said Abe worriedly. Allies that plant spy within our ranks can't be trusted, warned the Anbu commander. We have done the same many times in the past. Don't deny that, Commander. The Anbu commander sighed tiredly at that sharp but honest remark. He then saw a truly sorrowful look arrive on the older general's face who had fought for the land of water for decades under the water daimyo first and now under the Mizukage's flag. What does it say about us as a nation and people that it ultimately took an outsider to unite us and bring this nation to the peak of its glory? Our citizens truly have hope for a better future, something which a damned spy gave them in reality. We were regarded as a backwater by other nations, now none can dare ignore our presence or interests. For the first time in my own life, I was proud to follow a leader in whom I truly believed with all my heart, said Abe sorrowfully. Naruto Namikaze or Minato Namikaze, which is his birth name, is a truly extraordinary leader. He brought us to glory despite being a spy. Our nation is finally free of internal strife and we see every one of us as one people, even those nations that we conquered. The right course of action is to be a spy, but in this case, it may very well destroy everything we fought and our comrades their lives for, lamented the Anbu commander. I have to destroy someone truly great. The Anbu commander watched absolute regret present on General Abe's face for a very long moment before the older man steeled himself and looked back at him resolutely. Take his children into protective custody. Our absolute loyalty should always be towards the nation, our people and their future, and not towards one man. I made that mistake with the water daimyo in the past, not anymore. Besides, we will need every advantage we can get to deal with Naruto, instructed Abe seriously. And should the Terumi clan resist alongside any others? Asked the Anbu commander with concern present in his troubled voice. Do what you have to, Commander. I shall inform our legions and the 7 ninja swordsmen about this truth before we are dragged into another conflict that we want no part of. We need strong allies by our side and a priceless bargaining chip. There is no doubt that none can match Naruto Namikaze's brilliance on the battlefield, but he's politically naive as compared to other world leaders in part due to his young age and idealistic nature, advised General Abe, making the Anbu commander solemnly nod before marching off to carry out his orders. Only when the man was gone did General Abe his clenched fist at the nearest railing in frustration and the position he found himself placed in. He was betraying a man who had spared his life, even using his children against him, but he also remembered Naruto's last words to him during their last meeting. General, should I fall or anything unfortunate happen at the Cage Summit, I am entrusting you with Kirigakure's future. Keep our people safe until things stabilize and do what's right no matter the cost. Abe didn't know why, but he had a feeling that perhaps Naruto had foreseen these state of affairs. A few hours later the veteran general's fears came true when he received urgent communique from Konoha detailing as to what had happened at the Cage Summit. Naruto's truth exposed on a global stage, of him launching an attack alongside Madara Uchiha of all people and Azu on every cage, making an enemy of the entire shinobi world. A Wagakur being brutally wiped off the map, and every Jinchuriki including Lady May and Yagura captured as well by Naruto. An allied shinobi army was now forming under the leadership of a reinstated 2nd Hokage Tobirama Senju and the 3rd Tsuchikage Onoki alongside every nation in the world except Uzushiogakur, which was marked for annihilation for its role in Naruto's deception, and not surprisingly the smaller village had thrown its might behind him for this doomed struggle. Abe's suspicions were even more strengthened when he found the 4th Mizukage had not teleported any of Kiri's legions led by his trusted 7 ninja swordsmen to Awagakur when he was betrayed and exposed there as per the original contingency plan that he had told to his men. Instead, they remained oblivious, their hands clean from this entire mess. Now the new allied shinobi army was asking Kirigakure as to where it stood. I promise you this is the 4th Mizukage. I will never stop fighting for the future and interests of this nation, be they in the Cage Summit or the battlefield. General Abe fell to his knees in the Mizukage's office as he remembered Naruto's final promise to their army before he left. The deep and sincere meaning behind those words was never more clearer for the older man. The entire world saw Kirigakure as a victim of Naruto like themselves instead of being his allies, a man who betrayed the said nation by its Jinchuriki including his own wife. That despicable act alone would make even the Terumi clan and his staunchest allies desert him, but the fourth Mizukage must have known that already. A spy who had remained right under their nose all these years actually exposed his truth with his own hands at a decisive moment through Yagura and his disgraced allies, with there being only one reason left for Abe to make sense of these chain of events. To save Kirigakure, you became a devil, Lord Fourth. Heavy tears fell from General Abe's eyes as he realized what that spy had done for them. It was one thing to act heroically in the line of duty for one's country, but to go so far for a nation that was not even his motherland. The Butcher of Iwa, the enemy of world peace. The demon. As he read the various damning les the world was bestowing upon the disgraced Mizukage, General Abe was truly humbled by Naruto Namikaze's courage to face the hatred of the entire shinobi world and his selfless of giving Kirigakure a chance to save itself from his doomed path. The shinobi world had now declared total war on Naruto Namikaze and Madara Uchiha alongside their ally Uzushiogakure. Already the shinobi armies from various nations were gathering to crush them, with Kirigakure being strongly advised to join or be considered a fellow conspirator and threat to the shinobi world's future. Naruto's situation was doomed if one looked at the grander picture, but General Abe had seen the power of Madara Uchiha in the past. The tale of Uzushiogakures limited but effective military might, especially their legendary Spartans whom if intel reports were to be believed were actually alive and on the move themselves to the aid of their former captain. Most of all, General Abe was extremely reluctant to make Kirigakure join the allied shinobi army to save its future. They had the largest military force ever seen in shinobi history even without Kirigakure's support under the leadership of a sound leader like Tobirama and thousands upon thousands of war veterans from many nations. But Abe had also served under the 4th Mizukage's command. He hoped the allied shinobi army understood the strength of their enemy, for in this last campaign being fought for the entire world's future, they would be facing the true masters of war in the form of Naruto Namikaze and Madara Uchiha. God help us all. Mountain's graveyard. Mei gingerly opened her eyes and was frightened when she saw only darkness. Taking a deep breath, she calmed herself and tried several more times until she succeeded in gaining actual visual of her surroundings. She was in a gigantic but dark cave with the bare minimum light and was hanging several feet above the ground. Pain surged through her arms as she realized chakra chains were holding her limbs, and looking behind to the source of these bindings, she was truly horrified to see a monstrous statue larger than any tailed beast. It was a demonic statue in the form of a humanoid Ani with a mummified appearance with spike-like protrusions on its back. A cold chill ran through her entire body when she found it was already in the process of sucking tailed beast energy from Yugito Ni, the two tails Jinchuriki. The woman's eyes were blank, her mouth open in a horrified expression even as a lifeless Bunpaku, the one-tails Jinchuriki, lay suspended a few feet away from her in the air. They were extracting tailed beasts from their hosts and sealing them into that monster, with the one-tails already extracted. In the center of the cave, she found a dark inhuman creature alongside dozens of his fellow monsters carrying out the ritual with absolute devotion and focus. Memories came back to her from the disastrous Cage Summit as she remembered Naruto's chakra surging through her body and restraining her control and free will like in the past before the Battle of Osaka, as the six tails within her took control. Instead of breaking free from her body, it helped Naruto in battle just as every other tailed beast did the same with their hosts through the Mizukage's help. She remembered Naruto's conversation with her and Saiken back in Kirigakure before the Cage Summit, where he revealed what he and Madara truly wanted to do, for which they had sought cooperation from all tailed beasts in exchange for their freedom. You managed to convince your brethren, Saiken, she whispered to the six tails. For what little it's worth, I am sorry, Mei. All of us tailed beasts saw how short-sighted world leaders truly were at the Cage Summit, even in the face of the Otsutsuki threat. Such men could never save humanity, much less end the suffering of us tailed beasts, confessed Saiken with a heavy heart. So you all joined Madara? Asked Mei with a sigh. We joined Naruto. None of us trust Madara, especially the nine tails. The two tails doesn't trust Naruto due to their muddled history, but has confidence in the faith the rest of us tailed beasts have in him. In a world full of lies and treachery, he is the only one willing to walk into hell to save everyone, man or tailed beasts alike. If those two men can forcefully make humanity cease its wars, then we tailed beasts would not be used in such conflicts again and again, explained Saiken honestly. And that peace would be at the price of 9 Jinchurikis and thousands of more lives. Saiken was silenced by Mei's cold but truthful statement as they glanced at the corpse of Bunpaku and watched the life draining out of Yugito slowly. I'm sorry, Mei. The Terumi clan heir didn't say anything and looked at the remaining Jinchuriki. Most were unconscious except for Yagura and Mito, both of whom were looking at her right now. A bitter expression came upon her face as she looked at the former Mizukage when he just gave her a smile. The hell you smiling at, traitor? Asked Mei angrily. I revealed the truth of your husband back in Kirigakure through my few remaining allies during the Cage Summit time period. I wonder if the generals and commanders back home are doing the same to the Terumi clan and your children as your husband did with my clan. Retorted Yagura, satisfaction evident on his face. Mei felt as if her world was completely destroyed by that revelation, as she instantly feared for the safety of her children, her father and the rest of her clan, as they would be the prime targets for the leadership back home to take hostage, or for being associated directly with a spy, even be considered as traitors. But how could Yagura have known the truth? The man must have sensed her unsaid question as he explained with that same sickening smile. Naruto asked me to. Gave me the proof for his own destruction to reveal to our people in order to allow them a chance to distance themselves from this madness if his truth was exposed by his enemies. Despite being a spy, he acted like a true Kage, willing to bear the burden for his nation and people. I hate him for what he did to my family and hope you suffer the same fate, but I will admit he's the finest Kage our nation has ever seen. For that I joined him, even agreed to like this, knowing I will take his legacy with me and give our people a chance to save themselves from Naruto's doomed fate, confessed Yagura. He will never allow our children to be harmed, said Mei fiercely, earning a nod from Yagura. Maybe you're right. Perhaps they would have already been extracted to safe location by his allies by now, but the same can't be said for the Terumi clan, is it? Countered Yagura, making Mei lower her gaze in sadness and the former Mizukage to laugh half-heartedly. This is the end, Mei. You can never hope for a happy ending in this twisted shinobi world, but Naruto is trying to break this curse. He can see hope beyond this hell and will keep moving forward until he has destroyed 3,000 years of B history. We just won't be there to see it, whispered Yagura sadly. Mito had been silently listening to the conversation even as she contemplated their history and all that happened which led to this. She remembered losing her family in the Clan Wars era, same as her husband Hashirama. They created the modern shinobi world to stop that violence and prevent children from as tools of war. Sadly, it only led to more wars which consumed the life of her husband, her children and even her grandson Nawaki. With her only grandchild Tsunade left with her, she had high hopes for creating a lasting peace at the Cage Summit, only for that hope to be destroyed by Hiruzen himself at the orders of the Fire Daimyo. We must keep the children out of this cycle if we are to prevent it from happening again, she whispered. Mito looked up when she felt Yagura and Mei looking back at her, which made a few tears to fall from her eyes. It is the responsibility of us adults to bear the sins and hatred of the past, to not pass on the same to our children. I can never agree to Naruto's methods, but I understand why he is doing this. He is no devil or hero, just a man trying to protect his children alongside every human being by bearing that burden. Our solution for peace failed, maybe his solution will succeed, which is all I can hope for, at least for the sake of my granddaughter Tsunade, confessed Mito somberly. Black Zetsu had been listening to the conversation even as he continued the ritual of sealing the two tails alongside several dozen white Zetsus. To say he was surprised by what was being said would be an understatement. Perhaps Naruto had been right. Humanity was still worth saving. Kushina and Inoue Namikaze waked up towards the nearest mountain to their hideout and found Naruto standing there. Upon seeing their approach, he clenched his fist and the anger on his face was clearly visible. And they both knew why, even as his next words expressed that. Why did you get Izu involved in this mess? He asked furiously. Before they could answer, he was forced to look towards the skies where he sensed familiar signatures, and his heart sank further when he saw his entire Spartan unit descending towards them, led by Nagato himself. The very people he wanted to protect had willingly marched into hell for him. A part of his heart was humbled, but another more rational one couldn't help but despair knowing what was coming for them all. He turned towards his mother, who had a sympathetic look on her face as she understood exactly what he was feeling. It was not just me, Kushina, or the Spartans, but the whole village who considers you as one of our own. Hanzo Uzumaki made a dangerous decision when he sent you to Kiri as a spy, and made it even worse by not stopping your rise to the position of Mizukage, by not thinking how disastrous it would be for our village if you were exposed. Most of our forces will remain on the island except for the Spartans. The tactical bombs made of Biju chakra that you gave us should help us thwart any major incursions, which I don't think will happen anytime soon unless Kirigakure's navy attacks us in force. Ensuring you win the war is the only way for Azu to survive. More importantly, every one of us owe their lives to you. This was our choice and you have to accept that, explained Inoue patiently. Spartans look after their own, brother, said Nagato with a kind smile. You don't understand. We cannot win this. It's AS mission, replied Naruto in despair, only for his friends to laugh knowingly. We were made for those, Captain. Have you forgotten? Said Hayate confidently. We only need to hold the line against the enemy army for you to either plan. Once that happens, the fighting will end and we can all go home together, promised Kushina with a friendly smile. Don't tell me you have become soft, Captain. We kicked her before and we will do it again, said Kasumi fiercely. Lord Fourth. Naruto turned towards his right when he found Commander Reika walking towards them all, and in her hands was a rather large scroll which, upon being unsealed by the woman moments later, left him intrigued. For in front of him was an armor unlike anything he had ever seen before in his life. Even from his position, he could feel the sheer amount of energy at its core, and judging from its sinister nature. Reika, is that? He asked hesitantly, unable to believe at what the Uzumaki clan had engineered. This had been in the works ever since the fall of our Spartans in the First Great Ninja War. We had perfected the technology over time to avoid such casualties, but simply lacked the power source to sustain it. With the Biju chakra that you shared with us, our engineers harnessed portions of its power to bring this chakra armor to life, explained Commander Reika in detail. She then helped the Mizukage in donning the same, even as his fellow Spartans followed suit with their own armor that they had brought from their island nation. By the time Reika finished her job alongside the other Spartans, Inoue Namikaze had an extremely pleased smile upon her lips. The second Azukage had been briefed of the genetic augmentations the Spartans had gone through as part of the development. It had horrified her beyond belief when she truly understood what these children and her sons had endured, but the advantages were also equally worthy. It had transformed children barely between the ages of 8 to 13 into K machines. Their bones had been made nearly unbreakable, their reflexes 3 times faster than average shinobi, their body and skeleton structure had undergone rapid advancement, giving them larger height than their age befitted. Their muscles had been strengthened and their chakra capacity nearly twice that of average shinobi. Now as she watched them don the chakra armor made specifically to enhance their superhuman strength even further, she accepted as to why the other nations always feared the resourcefulness of the Uzumaki clan. For in front of her stood a small army of super soldiers more than 6 feet tall. They were all wearing pitch black armor whose outer shell was made of anium alloy, a rare earth available in good quantity upon their island. She also felt a strange sense of energy surrounding all the Spartans, and to check her hypothesis, she fired an electric bolt towards Naruto only for it to harmlessly dissipate against the armor's chakra shield. Inoue used few of her genjutsu techniques, but none affected any of the Spartans who stared at her blankly. This chakra armor cost us a fortune, enough to build a small army, but it's the strongest work of engineering our clan has ever done in its history. It allows every Spartan to withstand all forms of temperature. The Biju chakra which powers it enables you to have shields which deflect all forms of ninjutsu or genjutsu for a certain period. However, if the O becomes too severe, they will collapse and need a few seconds to be recharged. With your augmentations, you are the only one at present who are capable enough of wielding this armor without any further surgery like our other shinobi. Normal weapons or explosives even will not make a dent against the anium alloy. In the event an attack does wound you, the injury will be automatically sealed by the armor and medical chakra will be administered to heal it. The helmet gives you a 360-degree vision and the ability to communicate with every Spartan wearing it at any distance through the astral projection technique mastered by our clan. It also has enough slots to make you carry ammunition and essentials for 2 weeks' worth of battle. As long as the core holding the Biju chakra is not damaged or destroyed, it virtually gives you the ability to keep on fighting endlessly as the armor is designed to replenish your chakra a few times, explained Reika in detail. The second Azukage found herself feeling envious when her sons and their fellow Spartans decide to put their new technology to test. Enacting, Capture the Hill, exercise from their training days, the Spartans charged up a nearby mountain on foot, only this time their speed was twice as fast as before. Inoue used Earth Style to throw gigantic boulders down upon them, only for the Uzumaki warriors to clean through them all with brute force of their chakra armor. The Azukage rained down lightning from the skies upon the charging Spartans, only for their armor's shields to kick in and protect them easily. They all were quite surprised when Madara himself descended from the skies and stood at the top of the mountain the Spartans were hoping to conquer. Fire Style, Majestic Destroyer Flame. A gigantic tsunami of flames descended down upon the charging Spartans, worrying their cage but eliciting an extremely pleased smile from Madara when the Uzumaki veterans survived the O without a scratch and continued advancing towards Madara. Shinra Tensei. Upon sensing the incoming attack, the Spartans adopted a phalanx formation, channeling maximum chakra from the armor and their own Bi towards their shields. They flared wildly when the gravitational force hit them head-on. You Uzumaki truly are something else. To think they actually withstood my Shinra Tensei, said Madara with genuine respect. He went on to use every genjutsu in his arsenal, including one of his Mangekyo Sharingan, but just as promised, the chakra armor and its helmet protected its wearers. Wings emerged from the back of the armor as the Spartans took to aerial charge, and if not for his Sharingan, Madara would have not been able to see their rapid advance as they emerged on the mountain top. Yet even as he was forced to give way, he saw a true smile present upon Naruto's lips for the first time ever since what happened at the cage summit as the Mizukage removed his helmet. Inoue and Commander Reika watched Madara appear by their side and look at the Spartans hollering and rejoicing at their new upgrades. With an army like that, there is no victory impossible for us. Be it the shinobi world or the Otsutsuki, praised Madara with a wide smile. You think training, augmentation and their armor makes them unbeatable. For all of that, they are still children bred for war by adults like us. It's the bond among the Spartans that make them a force to be feared, said Inoue honestly. I think that's the only thing Naruto's truly afraid of. Losing any of them again, they are his true family. For when the entire world turned against him, the Spartans were the ones who vouched everyone in our clan to stand by him. They were the first to join him in this mission, just like he never gave up on saving them when the entire world, including our own nation, forgot about them. They are his friends, his siblings, all 124 of them, suggested Reika with a sympathetic smile. Madara saw with his own eyes the bond that Commander Reika and Inoue Namikaze talked about when he looked at the Spartans. It only went on to remind him of his own lost friends, cousins and brothers, Izuna in particular. I understand. More than you can imagine, he whispered with a heavy heart. As he briefly reminisced about the happy days of his own past, Madara didn't pay much attention until Naruto was standing before him moments later with the Spartans by his side. I have my family behind me now. I'll need to get my army, he declared resolutely. You changed your mind? Asked Madara in surprise, earning a sigh from the Mizukage. I don't want to end up my own men in the event they are forced to end up on the battlefield alongside other nations, or if they are coerced into attacking a zoo, which I will defend no matter the cost, explained Naruto sincerely. They'll kill you the moment they see you. What is there left to say? Asked Inoue worriedly, but surprisingly her son disagreed. I will always be Minato Namikaze for all of you here. But for better or worse, I am also Naruto Namikaze, the fourth Mizukage of Kirigakure. I made that nation and its army with my own hands. At the very least I owe them the truth from my own mouth. To give them a chance to stand by my side, or at least stay neutral. I am not doing this just for my own wish. If Kirigakure sides with the allied shinobi army, our defeat is inevitable and Azu will be destroyed, answered Naruto honestly. Don't you think you are overestimating them? Asked Madara curiously, only for Naruto to smile ruefully. I trained that army and led it personally for years. This is the same army that crushed a military powerhouse like Kumogakure, which even us Spartans could not do for all our might. That army conquered nations and was never once defeated in battle. It has the most powerful navy in the world, which is the greatest threat to Azu's existence. The 7 ninja swordsmen, my generals, are capable officers unlike the many arrogant fools in the allied shinobi army, explained the Mizukage frankly. Silence engulfed everyone as they understood the consequences of facing the Kirigakure army as their enemy. More than anyone else, they were the greatest threat to Uzushiogakure survival and the fate of this war. Very well. Do what you have to. Need anything from my end? Back up? Questioned Madara. We'll go with our captain. Should the men of Kiri dishonor their cage, we'll ensure they pay for such mistake, promised Nagato, his tone leaving no room for negotiation as the entire Spartan force backed him. To their surprise, Naruto didn't protest and just nodded before looking back at Madara as the Uchiha asked him an honest question. How will you convince them? Have you forgotten why you chose me to lead your army in this war? Countered Naruto. Madara couldn't help but smirk as he understood what his comrade was about to do. Land of lightning borders near land of fire. You were right, Zabuza. For once in his life, Zabuza hated to be proven right as he heard those words from Aomori and saw the disbelief and despair on the faces of the rest of the 7 ninja swordsmen assembled in the command tent. He could only imagine how the rest of their army now assembled together was feeling now that the disastrous news had arrived from General Abe as to what had happened at the Cage Summit. This has to be a lie, said Jinpachi hesitantly. Then why did his clones disappear? They were supposed to teleport our armies to Iwagakure if things went south, answered Zabuza calmly. What do we do? Asked Haku worriedly. The allied shinobi army has given us an ultimatum to join their ranks or face grave consequences once they have dealt with Lord 4. Naruto Namikaze, said Kisame seriously. They all looked at Mangetsu, who was sitting in the corner with his fists clenched tightly. With Naruto being exposed and Mei captured, it left him as the highest ranking officer in Kirigakure military. Even a possible successor to the Lord of Mizukage. We will do no such thing if we are to avoid a civil war which would kill more of our people. Declared Mangetsu fiercely. Do you really think our men would fight for a traitor? After everything that they know now? Asked Zabuza incredulously, only to receive a sharp look from Mangetsu. After everything we have been through together, do you think those men out there will pick up arms against their most beloved cage? Do you think they'll participate in him by joining forces with those nations that put us in this damned position in the first place? Maybe some think like you, Zabuza, but not the heart of the army. They'll see you to pieces if you try to force them, warned Mangetsu. General Abe also said that he suspects Naruto exposed his truth to our nation at least through Yagura so we could save ourselves from the events at the Cage Summit. That for his bitter truth, Naruto still cared for this nation and all of us, suggested Haku hesitantly. It could be one of the reasons why he didn't teleport any of us or our men into Iwagakure, agreed Kisame. Before Zabuza could counter that argument, one of their officers, Captain Ganru, broke into their tent and looked as if he had just seen a ghost. Lord 4th is here. All of the 7 ninja swordsmen had varied expressions on their faces upon hearing that, even as they clearly heard the commotion among the Kirigakure army outside. Mangetsu and Haku had the barest of hope visible on their faces as they gestured everyone to take command. Kisame seemed neutral, as did Jinpachi and Aomori to an extent. Zabuza however looked ready to K as his hand itched towards his sword but was stopped by a sharp look from Mangetsu. Do you truly think you can K him? Any of us can. The fight went out of Zabuza as the reality of their situation was made crystal clear for him, making him reluctantly join his comrades to confront a man whom he hated and respected from the bottom of his heart. Naruto had chosen to wear the exact same uniform which he was dressed in when he had left the army, now assembling into formation as he descended from the skies alone, his Spartan comrades ordered to stay up in the skies and only intervene if his life was in danger. He was not disappointed when he saw his generals had already organized their respective legions into defensive formations. Granted, he had clearly announced his approach for everyone to see and had taken some time to arrive just to give them time to prepare. To say he was nervous would be an understatement, a fact quite known to him by the shaking and sweating of his hands which he kept concealed at his back as he landed on a rocky patch of terrain that allowed him to stand above the vast army before him. Warriors of Kirigakure. A brief confidence was born within the Mizukage's heart when he saw his familiar walkry made hundreds of men tremble with the usual deference, even as thousands more fought against the desire to return that greeting. If you want to K your Mizukage, here I am. For several long moments, Naruto waited anxiously to see if anyone truly wanted to take that course of action. He was extremely touched when not a single shinobi moved forward even if many had their weapons pointed towards him. "We want the truth, Naruto. That's all," said Mangetsu honestly, earning thousands of nods from shinobi across all the legions of Kirigakure. "Please tell us it's all a lie. That this is all a plot by our enemies," urged Haku desperately, and there were surprisingly many more who agreed with her feelings. "You betrayed us all, Naruto. Admit it now that we have come to this point," instructed Zabuza bitterly, earning a nod from a small minority of shinobi. The fourth Mizukage looked at them all and took a deep breath before admitting. "What happened at the Cage Summit is true." A commotion erupted among the army as thousands broke down in despair, many more were numb in shock and a handful furious ones tried to storm forward only to be stopped by their officers and the 7 ninja swordsmen even as Naruto didn't flinch even as a sea of questions and accusations were thrown at him. The fourth Mizukage unleashed his full power bringing an instant end to the chaos as the K-intent of the man washed over everyone making him back away. "What I am about to say isn't meant to stop you from doing what you desire. You are all free men and women, the same as you were at Haidara," said Naruto loudly. The army instantly simmered down as memories of their most glorious and toughest battle came back to them. On the eve of that struggle, the fourth Mizukage had told them that unlike the Kumogakure shinobi who were fighting to protect the interests of the daimyo alone, the Kirigakure warriors was free, just as they were today to make a choice. Even Zabuza felt a pang of regret in his heart for what was happening right now as he remembered that victory which they had all won together under the same man's command. "It is true that I have hidden my past from all of you, of who I once was. But one thing which I am absolutely clear about is the fact that never have I ever betrayed Kirigakure or its people. My birth name is Minato Namikaze, I was born in Uzushiogakure." Haku listened alongside the rest of the army as Naruto's loud voice echoed across the battlefield for everyone to hear. As the Mizukage talked about his past, she watched Mangetsu fight back his own pain of losing his own mother to war just like Naruto lost his own parents. Looking around she saw thousands of shinobi had experienced the same pain. Jinpachi and Amayuri finally had their answers behind the Mizukage's inhuman powers when he revealed the augmentations and training he went through as part of the Spartan program. It clearly explained as to how he became so good at war and leading shinobi into battles. Kisame couldn't help but feel the shinobi world had not changed as he learned the fate of the Spartans, the Azukage's role in it all, the politics and how Naruto became a pawn in the larger scheme of things. How the man who became their Mizukage wanted nothing more than to and even tried to take his own life at one point of time. "I had lost hope and was searching for a way to in the service of the motherland for which my comrades If I could establish an alliance between our nations to face our common enemies, then it would be a cause worthy to for. But this nation and its people gave me more than what my own motherland ever had. Every one of you, Lord Genjutsu, the 7 ninja swordsmen, made me believe in myself, this world and the future." The Kirigakure army listened as Naruto explained how he met Madara in the first place much to the surprise of the 7 ninja swordsmen as they realized the strange shinobi who nearly kicked their during the mission to the lightning daimyo behind enemy lines had been the legendary Uchiha. They were all even more shocked upon learning the danger of the Otsutsuki clan against whom Madara wanted to unite the shinobi world. To actually verify the claim along with what exactly happened at the Cage Summit, the Mizukage played a recording from the astral projection technique which the Zetsus had used to capture the Cage Summit for any future witnesses to verify against any false propaganda. Naruto saw the disgust upon the faces of the Kiri shinobi when they saw the other cages flatly ignoring the Otsutsuki threat even after seeing an actual corpse of the enemy that had tried to infiltrate and capture their tailed beasts. They listened even more attentively as the Mizukage explained what was the reason for him joining up with Madara and the capture of all Jinchuriki at his hands. "An end to all wars?" asked Amayuri in disbelief, earning a nod from the blonde cage before her. "With the power of every tailed beast, we can link every human and living creature of this world. What happened at the Cage Summit has shown me that even if we face an external threat that endangers our very existence, humanity will continue warring with each other. The vow to renounce war will bring an end to that conflict among humanity and truly unite us for the first time in our existence," explained Naruto honestly. "Isn't that kind of peace fake?" asked Zabuza straightforwardly. "Do you want the next generation to suffer like we all have?" To rest like most shinobi do in this cruel world. To continue fighting for feudal lords and be annihilated by an external foe like the Otsutsuki. The fourth Mizukage was satisfied when those harsh questions made many shinobi flinch as the thought of the future of their own children made them pause. All of it still doesn't change the fact that you are a spy, a declared enemy of the entire world, and a man who kept things from us all this time, said Kisame flatly. Nor does it change the fact that you have allied yourself with a man like Madara and his monster army. Do you truly expect us to actually fight for you and make our nation a global pariah or worse an enemy nation like Uzushiogakure? Questioned Zabuza scathingly. The two swordsmen were confused when their questions only made the Mizukage smile ruefully before a terrifying iciness arrived in his eyes. I already told you that all of you are free to do whatever you want. I came here because I owed you all the truth after everything that has happened, and in response to your questions I want you all to know how you are behaving towards me and how I have treated you all. Declared Naruto furiously. The blonde Kage looked directly at Mangetsu as his next words made the Hozuki clan head feel even more conflicted. Let me begin by talking about my mentor and your second Mizukage, Lord Genjutsu. When he took command, you were a bunch of defeated shinobi who were a laughing stock among other nations. Under his rule, you got a chance to transform from barbarians into true shinobi. With determination, he bridged the gap between the ninja clans and every other shinobi of this nation. He stood up to the water daimyo's brutality and made all of you actually stand up for the rights of your own countrymen as you were sworn to. Lord Genjutsu had the courage to declare war on Kumogakure, lay the foundations for an alliance with the Land of Fire and Konoha, and began the reformation of your inefficient military system. He even paid with his life for doing what was right. This is what Lord Genjutsu, my mentor, did for you. Remarkable on its own but small compared to what you have gained from me. Zabuza saw the direct impact of those words upon the men of his own legion as countless flinched and looked away from the fierce gaze of the fourth Mizukage. I crossed the ocean and led from the front to help Kirigakure capture the strategic city of Osaka in the Land of Lightning. I sent a well-placed and superior enemy running while ensuring minimal loss of life among our forces. The Kinkaku Black Ops feared across the world once fled upon witnessing my presence. Together, we rescued Tobarama Senju, thereby laying the foundation for an alliance favored by Lord Genjutsu with the Land of Fire against our common enemies. For all of our comrades who in that battle I ensured their families got the spoils of our victory to safeguard their future. Even standing up the furious ninja clans which none of you had ever dared to oppose before. Captain Ganru lowered his gaze as he remembered those events as if they had happened yesterday. Two of his friends who didn't belong from any ninja clans had fallen at Osaka, and it was Naruto Namikaze who had stood up for the welfare of the bereaved families, even if it meaning earning the wrath of the ninja clans who wanted to claim all the spoils of victory. What kind of a spy put himself in that position by making enemies out of the ruling nobility for common grunts like Ganru and his comrades? I lead a mission deep behind enemy lines that led to the era of the Lightning Daimyo and put our enemy's leadership in disarray. I saved your life, Mangetsu Hozuki, despite us never seeing eye to eye at that point of time on many things. The 7 ninja swordsmen remembered that act, especially Mangetsu and Haku, who couldn't help but recall how this man had used his Sage Mode powers to save the Hozuki clan head from a lethal wound. I established an alliance with the Land of Fire and ensured the interests of Kirigakure were safeguarded even against the opposition of my own biological father Tobarama Senju, who wanted me to agree to terms favoring his nation and their allies. I never wanted to be Mizukage, but when the flames of civil war engulfed Kirigakure, I stood up to defend the rights of our people even if it meant endangering my Edenian life. I showed mercy to many of you who fought against me, knowing you wouldn't have shown me the same if the results had been reversed. Many members of the Hagoromo and Kaguya clans, as well as thousands of feudal warriors previously in the service of the ousted Water Daimyo, alongside former shinobi of Kumogakure and the other conquered nations, looked greatly uncomfortable of being flatly reminded of that harsh reality. You call me a spy, a traitor, when I have been more loyal to this nation and its people than the country where I was born and raised. I reformed this army, ensured every one of you was strong enough and well equipped to do your duty as the protectors of Kirigakure. Have you forgotten everything all of us have been through together? Asked Naruto passionately. The Kirigakure army was speechless even as the Mizukage was far from done. With the help of Genjutsu he showed them all exactly what he meant by those words. I crossed the sea by creating the largest navy in the world. We defeated the monstrous turtle Genbu without suffering a single casualty. Our great march trampled our enemies as we conquered the northern regions of the Land of Lightning. I ambushed the third Raikage, destroyed his logistics alongside a considerable amount of his forces single-handedly so that my men suffer fewer casualties. At Haidara, I lead all of you against the strongest military of the world at that time. I lost my arm in defeating the Raikage just so more of you could return home alive to your families. I again led from the front in the rest of the campaign and together we conquered Kumogakur. We did the impossible. Jinpachi and every shinobi among their army felt even more conflicted as the genjutsu showed them visuals of all those battles that they had fought together. All the glory they had won under this man's command. The enormous resources of the Land of Lightning, the fertile plains of the Land of Hot Water, the treasures and beauty of the Land of Frost all belong to you. Many of you are now captains and generals. What have I taken for myself that I have not shared with all of you? Nothing. I have been at the front by your side, enduring the same hardships and threats, eating the same food. Tell me one instance when I have asked anything from any of you that I am not willing to do myself. I have suffered the same wounds for the sake of your lives, glory and wealth. Even if you consider me a traitor now, I am still here by your side and am willing to s for our nation and any one of you. The fourth Mizukage's words see deeper than any blade, reducing Amayuri and hundreds more in the army to tears. Naruto's own gaze teared up a little when he looked at Mangetsu and Haku. We've celebrated our weddings together. Your heirs could have been my godchildren. The 7 ninja swordsmen remembered attending Naruto and Mei's wedding, as did Mangetsu and Haku's wedding, which the Mizukage himself had organized at such a short notice, braving all challenges and displeasure from those not invited due to the short notice. In that way, they were all practically family even if they were not related by B. The Mizukage then looked at the army with a fire in his eyes that made his troops even more ashamed. I've paid of your debts without questions apart from the compensation and treasures you took for yourselves in our conquests. The lands and honors bestowed upon the brave among you were given by me. Every one of us who is in the line of duty were laid to rest with full military honors, their families are honored and exempted from all taxes. Under my command not one of our shinobi has ever been fleeing from the enemy. The stark reality was harder to accept for the Kirigakure army as not a single one of their ranks could deny all the things the 4th Mizukage had done for them. None of their former rulers or any other kage in the world had done as much for the troops under their command. When they looked back at their leader, they saw genuine disappointment and hurt in those eyes. I tried to make peace, to make the other shinobi nations see reason and unite against the Otsutsuki threat. But they fear me and the power of Kirigakure. They are content to doom humanity's future for the sake of their own petty interests. Content to let this world be embroiled in constant warfare, thereby continuing the cycle of hatred and suffering. A vicious cycle from which I want to save all our children. Maybe I wasn't born in Kirigakure, but I have loved this nation and its people like my own family. Zabuza and Kisame flinched when the 4th Mizukage looked directly into their eyes alongside staring at others who had not been pleased with his hidden past. In the treacherous passes of the mountain's graveyard, I'll make my final stand against the might of the entire shinobi world for the sake of everything and everyone I hold dear, even if they don't stand by my side. You are all free. Go back to your homes or choose to become puppets of the very shinobi nations that seek to take everything you have achieved for our country. Ao and many Kiri shinobi trembled in shame when they saw tears fall from their Mizukage's eyes. I will keep moving forward with Madara and our monsters until we achieve peace for humanity. The 7 ninja swordsmen alongside every shinobi of Kirigakure felt something rankle deep within their hearts upon those prophetic words, even as the skies roared with lightning. The fury and sadness which they saw within Naruto's tearful eyes and his last words before teleporting away unnerved even the most battle-hardened veterans among their ranks. When our people and history shall judge what happened in this war, when all your great victories would be forgotten, when your memories disappear from this world with the passage of time, it will always be remembered. You left your Mizukage in the end. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.